Good morning and welcome to the Juniper Center Thrive Live, featuring conversations with guests to help clinicians and everybody else thrive and to normalize conversations about mental health. We are about demolishing the stigma around mental health. I'm your host, Dr. Margot Jacot. I'm the founder and chief care officer at the Juniper Center. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And as always, we have the comment section. We would love to hear from you. Please say hello. Let us know you're there. If you have any questions, we'd love to know about it. So, excuse me, I am so delighted today to welcome Lucy Colangelo. This is a special Wednesday edition of our typical Juniper Center Thrive Live. Today, it's actually an edition of Mom to Mom, which is a series I've been doing with our co-host. Typically, that's Deanna Shaws, but today I have Lucy with me. I'm a parent of two teenage boys. Deanna and I often talk about issues that are important to parents. Lucy's going to talk to us today about her work with kids, and she also has kids who are 12 and 14. So Lucy is a longtime marketing communications professional who had developed a 7-step, 14-question process to help entrepreneurs, not unlike myself, very excited about this, find their authentic voice online, which is a challenge. We're going to hear what happened when a friend of Lucy's, a friend whose teenager was struggling in high school, this person reached out for help. I'm imagining we've all been there. I know I have, hoping somebody can talk some sense into our kids or help us think of ways to communicate with our kids that aren't intuitive to us at the moment. In any case, Lucy applied her process to help business owners find their purpose to this kiddo, and the result was transformational. It put Lucy on an all-new trajectory with her ShineOn Teen Empowerment Method, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Welcome to Lucy, and welcome all to the Juniper Center Thrive Live. Good morning, Lucy. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Margot. I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks so much for being here, especially on our special Wednesday edition, all the way from Ontario, Canada, where you've said there's snow on the ground. We're here in Chicago where it's a little gray, but no snow as of yet. So we will see. But wonderful to have you here. And again, if you're out there watching us live today, most of our views come after the fact. But if you're there live, we'd love to know that you're here. So, Lucy, tell us a little bit about the program, how you discovered it, your story, what this whole thing is about.
I love it. Thank you for the introduction. It was wonderful. It took me back to that first time that things just changed for me. So yes, there was a young girl and her mom was really stressed about how to guide her daughter. And it was a very challenging time for their family. And something just told me I had to do something and I had to try to help. And it's exactly like that. I had a marketing and communications thing going on, and I was helping people with building their businesses and doing this authentic voice thing that I was really passionate about, because we all know social media is, we decide in an instant. I'm sure you could teach us more psychologically about that snap decision. We make those judgments in seconds, in fractions of a second, right? So authenticity is something that human beings can they can zero in on that. They can feel it, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the process, my clients were always saying, oh, I want you to talk to my kid like this. Like I had clients, it was a theme up until that point. But then when I realized that a fellow parent was in struggle, I was just like, wait a second, I think I have to look at this. And so what happened was I took my business building communications method and turned it into a life planning method. And I actually created it to be what I call like a structure for a conversation to support the conversation. And I just felt like this conversation was lacking in the experience of growing up. Right. So what happened was this young girl had sought, there was medical attention, then there was counseling and therapy. And then the mom just was in distress because she said she's still not finding the help she needs. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't want to talk about the bad things anymore, the traumas and the things that happened. She's trying to find a way to move forward, right? And
Right.
everything about marketing is a planning thing, and it's a campaign thing, and it's all about the future. And I was like, this is about life, and this is about her future. So I started to see these parallels, and
Mhm.
like her authentic voice. Well, what's her authentic life going to be like? And we got
Mhm.
into this inquiry of what could this be? What could this look like? So it's it was really one of those magical moments where I just said, I'm going to go and tell her mom that I can help, but that I'm not a therapist, a counselor. I am not any of those things, but I want to take her daughter through an experience, and that none of it will be about talking about the past because I'm not qualified. Unless she wants to share something, a story, something like that, and I'm just listening, that's okay. But I don't want to go into the past. I want to help her create her future.
Yeah, move forward.
Right. So I went home and I quickly changed up all my stuff because I'd had a process, and I'll show you a quick example.
Yeah.
Like, I was putting my clients through what I called clarity mapping. So this is the clarity map. And what it does is we get into inquiry. Where am I? Right here. And then we get into action. And it's this infinite loop in your life. It's also in your business. You run campaigns every quarter, every whatever it is, every
Right.
season. So it was mimicked to be all about personal development, thinking about the future, looking forward, creating, being in discovery, being curious. And so I took my clarity map and I created a playbook. And I took the playbook and I put there's 14 steps in the method. And I created like a, got the tabs, got the 7 questions and the exercises in there. And the experience was going through the 14 steps. That was the experience. So a session with me was you get your playbook, you go through the 14 steps. And it's exactly like how you described it. It was absolutely transformative. This young girl sat with me. She was 14. We had one 90-minute session. We went through the 14 steps. The 7 questions helped facilitate and frame up the experience. And that night, her mom messaged me saying that her daughter had just spent 2 hours sitting at the edge of their bed, sharing her clarity map, sharing her playbook, and being excited about her life and her future. And that
Oh,
she never has to look back at what happened.
right. Oh, that's
And it changed my
amazing.
life. It
I
changed my
bet.
life. And here I am sitting with you today.
I'm so excited about that because,
Yeah.
Lindsay, I mean, first of all, that's beautiful. The map is beautiful. It's
Thank you.
attractive. It's something that I wanted to, like, look at more
Right.
closely and
Yeah.
right, so there's that, but that's really what we're looking for, right? Are those moments where we can have
Mhm.
such an impact on people, and kids are
Mhm.
really struggling and suffering right now, so
Yes.
this is so relevant, especially now. So,
Yes.
can you help us dig in a little bit and understand it a little bit more, your ShineOn method? So, I
Okay.
know you're not necessarily gonna go through all
Like,
14 and all 7, but just
oh
kind of
no,
give us a
absolutely. I
feel for it.
totally understand. Sure. Okay. So, what I see from the outside looking in is that we're in the wrong conversation. I just feel like we're not in this future focused creative discovery conversation. I think there's fear and too much of this control energy coming in. And what I want to do is create freedom and liberty, right? And opportunity and discovering what someone's potential is like. That requires some inquiry, some deeper digging, right? And I feel like sometimes we just want to have those answers. We want them, and we apply mindsets that are like, I call it set it and forget it. Like, we want to decide who they're going to be, and they apply to college, they get the great education, they go off and have rockin' careers, and they're this happily ever after thing of raising our kids, right? We just want assurances that we're doing a great job and all this
Yep.
stuff, right?
One
Like,
size and it's one size fits all.
it kind of feels like that, and there's so many things around that I could dive into, but what I want to say is that it's a conversation. If I leave you with nothing else. It's that recognize what kinds of conversations you're in with your children.
Exactly.
And are they optimistic? Are they future focused? Are they curious about who they are and who they could become? Is it an open conversation? Can the child say, I think I want to be a rocket scientist. I think I want to be a musician. I think I want to try on this, try on that. They're
Yeah.
young. The cost of them experimenting in this space in their high school years is nothing. There's not a lot of consequence to exploring different career paths. But what I find happens is you get into the conversation of aptitude, strengths, what are the grades? It takes
The
all the
test scores,
fun out
right.
of it,
Mhm. What's
and
your ACT and your SAT?
are
And
you
yeah,
going to get to the good college? Are you going to get into,
right.
and it's the wrong conversation. And I think also in their development, I know you could speak to this a lot more succinctly than I can, but I think something special and magical happens when they're in that age 11, age 12, 13. There is an awakening that's happening. I think that
Mhm.
their self-awareness, different things are coming into play. And I've been explaining it to parents that they start to realize that they can create consequences.
Mhm.
And there's a real power in teaching them how to take responsibility. And so I believe in downloading as much responsibility as possible onto my children. Like I've said this, people have heard me say it, and I love that I'm saying it here today, but I believe in making my children's life as hard as possible in the most loving
In
way.
the most loving
You
way.
know, like
Right.
they're
Yeah,
resilient, they're hardwired for this. And if they don't have challenges and struggles to practice their decision making and practice discernment and all these things, it's a different conversation. You're fixing and you're chasing after something, and they're not
right.
really in this enlivened, inspired, enjoying life type of framework. I don't
Yeah.
find, right? So my whole thing is about a strong self awareness and identity. How do we cultivate that? How do we empower them? How do we teach them this is a thing, right? So I used to say, yes, I introduce young people to personal development. But sometimes I find myself saying, I introduce them to themselves,
Right
you
here.
know,
Let me
like,
allow you to really meet you because 'cause I'm gonna be curious about you. I'm not gonna
yes,
tell you, I'm gonna be curious about
yes.
you. Lucy, I love that. That is
Yeah.
so great.
Thank you. Thank you. So to just like round that off for the kinds of things that I do, I'm leading parents in a new conversation is what I'm
Mhm.
finding. And I'm inviting them into this conversation and inviting them to have these conversations with their kids. So if anyone's curious about this type of conversation and they want to be in this kind of energy that we're creating today in this conversation, I have a parent guide right off of my website. It's the first thing that you see. Get into the parent guide. The button's right there, the free guide. Oh, thank you. I love this. And you can sign up, and there's 8 tips. And there's a video. You can see me with all different hair and everything.
Yeah, right? I
I did
watched it.
these videos a
They're
little
good.
while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
thank you.
mhm.
So it changes the energy of the conversation.
For
And
sure.
you can join the Shine On Family Circle in Facebook and be in the conversation with me, ask me questions. Um, it's about the conversation. Take a look at the conversation that you're having with your young person. And like I'm saying, that it's all about this future focus.
So,
And yeah.
yeah, so I'm sorry, Lucy. So,
Mhm,
so I wanna understand that a little bit more. So,
mhm,
so if somebody signs up and wants to do the Shine On method,
mhm.
what can they expect? So what's step 1 and what's step 2 and what happens next, and how do they understand those 14 and 7? Can you just tell us a little more about that?
Right. Okay. So we're creating an experience to be curious, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to discover things about ourselves, right? So we're landing on things. Let me take a look at my map. I'm going to share. So I'm going to go back to the example that I said, that I shared about that young girl, that my first experience with sharing Shine On with a 14-year-old. She landed on question 4, which had to do, it's step 7 in the method, and it had to do with community, and it had to do with the people that are in her life and around her. And it truly blew her mind that she gets to curate and choose who is in her inner circle, that there is an inner circle, that these are the core people that are in her life. She shows up for these people show up for her, right? We did a little bit of an audit. This is your family, these are your parents, these are
Mhm.
your closest friends, this and that. What was really transformative for her and empowering to her was that she's going to go through life inviting new people into her life and having new friends as she goes in life, and she will go through releasing and wishing well to those that are going on a different path, right? And
Mhm.
this was something that's an example of being in the work. And so what happens is now in her clarity map, she had a little zone, a tab in the playbook that was about the people that she cares about. And we had this expansive conversation about who are other people that she could start to care about and show up for and engage with, and they may show up for her one day. And so it did bridge into the kind of work she might one day want to do and career that she might want to find herself in. But we also were like, maybe it's volunteer work, maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's just something fun, maybe you sign up for a class of some sort.
Yep.
We didn't put a limitation or a boundary on it. It's about this expansion and this curiosity and being in discovery. So that's a great example of one puzzle
Mhm.
piece on the clarity map. And
Fabulous.
it just changed her life. I remember her just staring at me. And at the time, I think I was 42 or 43. And I was like, listen,
Let me tell you, sister.
I have two friends that I've had since childhood, but I
Yep.
can tell you I have at least 20, and 6 of them I've recently met as and count them as close friends. And they're my neighbors and parents on my children's sports teams. So
Right.
I didn't know I would ever meet these people, but they're core to who I am these days. I have great experiences, and my life feels enlivened, and it feels whole. And I have these new people, this new energy around me. So
Yeah.
just curating people in your life, and showing up for them, like taking responsibility, being compassionate, being there for someone else, like learning that you can do those hard things. It was a very interesting,
Right.
transformative moment in the experience, in that experience.
Well, part of what I love about that, Lucy, is that, I notice this with my own kids. My kids
Mhm.
right now are 17 and 15, they're boys.
Okay.
And it's so great the moments where I can see that we've been able to talk about something before we're problem solving after the fact, you know.
Right.
And so
Right.
something like this, especially for a teenage girl, but for boys too, to
Mhm.
to be able to have those conversations about, look, people come in our lives and they go. And that's normal. And
Mhm.
so how do you handle that? How do you understand that as a lifelong process so that
Mhm.
they can feel differently about it and not feel like they've goofed something? I mean, maybe they have, but
Mhm.
to not see it as something aberrant or unusual or only happening to them. And right.
Right.
So these are proactive conversations to be able to prep
Yes.
kids for what to expect in their lives.
Yes.
That's fabulous. So
Yes.
do you use this with your own kids?
So fun. Yes, I do. And so my
They love
daughter,
it. Yeah,
oh, sure, yeah, right.
yeah, right, I know.
Okay, so
My kids always say, "I'm gonna be in therapy for life because I have a therapist as a mother."
so, um, okay, I have my 14-year-old is my son, he's my oldest, and then I have my 12-year-old daughter. So I have been creating this in a special time in their lives, right? So my daughter has been drawn to this work and like drawn to the board game looking puzzle
Mhm.
piece thing that mom works on. She's been drawn to it and in this curiosity energy since she was 8, 9 years old. And she journals regularly and finds new meaning in the steps and what she's exploring. She has probably 15 careers on her horizon that she needs to vet through.
Wow,
Oh, yes.
that's fabulous.
Oh, yes. And then my son is more like, no, that like you're trying to define me. And I'm like, not at all. I'm just very proud that you're aware of this. So we can just leave
Mhm.
it alone for now.
Do you
So
think that's a gender thing? Have you discovered in your work with kids, does
uh
this tend to speak a bit more to girls or
I
And
think
again,
the age, it's the age.
the
So
age. Okay, it's more that
I,
than the gender. Yeah.
you can speak more to the maturity, like the the boys at the same age are more interested in just the video games and the sports and other things. And if I
Mhm.
have a conversation about being like introspective at all, it takes a little bit more for me to create safety because they
For
want
sure.
assurances, I think. Like they want a predictable, they don't want to disappoint me. So my read on my son is that he is worried that I'm going to do the happily ever after thing with him and just put permanence to anything that he commits to.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. He was very curious about the saxophone this summer. And he got upset with me when I said, well, do you want to go and take lessons? And then we had to, he was upset with me with offering lessons, but he
How
felt
do
there
you
were,
get it right these days? I'll tell
I
you.
know, right? But he felt that there was a permanence, there was a commitment that was going to be
Mm,
required of him because he is on sports teams. He is an athlete. And when he signs up to be on a team, he's there for the season and he knows that there's a commitment level that we
mhm.
expect. And he's been doing that for years now. So he didn't want to commit. And I said, we need to maintain that freedom for you to just explore. So mommy's going to commit to renting this piece of equipment, this instrument for 1 month. Are we good with the 1 month? Because I'm not going to force you to touch the saxophone unless you want to. Let's create
Yeah.
safety and something that you're free to be exploring in, right? So
Mm.
we went and picked up the saxophone. It was a beautiful music center and brought it home. And then he asked me, please, mommy, remind me every day I want to try it. And he was using YouTube
Oh,
videos and exploring how to play it. And he thought that he could really coordinate these movements and get some stuff going. And I have a music background. I used to teach music. And he was doing scales without knowing it. He was going through all the notes. And I knew that. So I came up and I said, you're mastering this thing. You're amazing, right? And then each month we kind of checked in, and then he had 2 months of it and school got really busy. And he said, I'm kind of done with it for now, but I'm looking forward to music later in high school. And so we
nice.
returned the instrument together. And then I said, okay, whenever you're curious about something, I'm here to create those opportunities for you.
Mm.
And I will not make it a forever thing and a permanent thing.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
and that was the
Lucy.
thing. That was what I found it was.
But it's knowing your kid, right? And
And
so
the listening, the
it's
deeper listening. Yeah.
and the need for listening. I've been, listening to a biography actually that was written by Will Smith, of
Oh,
all people.
yes.
It's
Oh,
interesting.
love Will Smith.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's great, and
Mhm.
he talks about these critical moments in parenting
Yes.
where the thing that he didn't do was listen, and the impact of that, and it's the most important thing we can do. So what you're talking about is suspending our own expectations
Yes.
and making sure that we're hearing what our kids are saying.
Yes.
So in order to get around this thing for your son, you had to know that you needed to find safety. And safety
Yes.
for him was not assuming or was not having some kind of expectation, letting him know that you
Yes.
didn't have an expectation. And then he had
Yeah.
the freedom just to try it out and see what he thought. So
Yeah.
that's beautiful. So this is a part of what you're showing parents too. It's just a
Yes.
great example of
Yeah.
listening. So he
Lots
may
of
not wanna do
examples.
steps. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
I'm
So
doing these stories. It's all about the storytelling. I find that I really enjoy that, and the things that parents share with me. I'm able to put a framework. I put the Shine On framework against it, and I
mhm.
I have a certain lens that I view things in, right? So it's interesting. It's very exciting stuff. Parents say, "I never saw it that way." I get that on the daily, and I love it.
Nice.
It's my joy.
Yeah,
Like
right,
if I can help you see things
right.
a little bit more expansive, a little bit differently, if you can hear your child a little bit differently.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think parents are afraid of what the answers might be. It's really funny. It's like you're not supposed to be afraid of your child. Like, what could they say? Like,
But people
you're afraid of being
are.
curious. Like,
We're
who?
afraid of them being upset with us, Lucy, I think,
Yeah, I
right?
I don't know. It's funny. I find that sometimes it's like you're going to ask them who they want to be in the world, who they want to become, and um, it points to identity issues, like all kinds of things that are problems in our society. They create anxiety, they create distress. There's all kinds of things that kids are working through with discovering who they are.
Mhm.
And I feel like we need to make it an exciting and fun and creative experience, not one that is so um, like tied to just definitions and putting
Mhm.
labels on things and just you are this then. Like my daughter loves animals and
Right.
she wants to be a veterinarian. She also wants to be an esthetician and a teacher she has 15 different things. I'm telling you right now, I'm coaching her through vetting out this list of
Yep.
I'm going to be and figuring it out. And she just loves animals. So just
Right.
love her and encourage her to love the animals and be curious. And I mean, we had to share with her that a lot of times vets work on farms with farm animals. It's not all just puppies and kittens. And she's like,
Right.
what?
Right.
It's
Right. Chickens? What? Yeah.
expansive, that you
Right.
might have a parrot, you might have a snake. I don't know. People have all kinds of pets.
Right. Exactly.
And
That's
look at this,
great.
just make
So
it bigger.
making it bigger. Deanna was
Mhm.
asking, how do we affirm for them that we are listening? I swear I am, but my son says I'm not hearing him. I love that question.
Ah,
Thank you, Deanna.
yes.
And I noticed this with my own kids, right? That so my
Mhm.
son, for example, my older son wants to go into the military, he's decided, or be an NFL football player.
Right.
Fine, right? Neither
Yes.
of which are what I would choose for him. You
Okay.
know, concussions and
Oh, right.
whatever can happen in the military,
Right.
but listening and letting them know that we're listening. So
Yes.
I can certainly describe how I do that, but how do you do that? How would you affirm that you're listening? And this is probably our last question because we
Sure.
are
Okay,
almost out of
perfect.
time.
Yeah. So I take myself out of the conversation. I just it's not about me.
Mhm.
Like the musical instrument saxophone thing. Yes, I taught piano. I'm passionate about music. It's an entirely different language that my son would be learning. I would have gotten really excited about it. And somehow my ego could have gotten wrapped up in it. Right. So I take myself out of it. I get curious about what they want out of the experience. So I'd be more curious about what is it that they're drawn to in the military, for example, or what is it about? Well, we all know how glamorous and wonderful it would be to be an NFL star, right? Like,
Right?
I know any athlete, right? Like, wonderful, but go deeper. What would that mean to you? What would that mean
Mhm.
to your self worth, your identity? What would you be accomplishing? Like, get them to narrate that and have tell
Mhm.
that story, and that's when they'll know you're listening because you don't know the answer. Like you can't possibly know what they're drawn to with the military career, and then you could, by what they say, guide the exploration, guide educating them, informing them,
Mhm.
right? Have you thought of this or looked at that? Or how about we go to a military something that's in your area and connect them to the real world of it?
Exactly. That
That's how
sounds
you're
fabulous.
listening, right? Like,
Right, you take them seriously.
oh,
You
for
ask
sure. Oh,
questions. You
take
dive in
them
with them,
seriously,
right?
please. Yes.
Oh, see, this is really
Yeah.
wonderful. And
Yes.
just so if people take nothing else away, first of all,
Yes.
I would love for them to connect with you and
Yes.
learn more about your ShineOn method. You
Thank you.
can find Lucy at Colangelo.com. Very
Hmm.
simple. You're on
Hmm.
social media at Lucy C. Dot.
Yes.
So people can find you. It please do, folks, connect with
Yes, I
Lucy.
love my DMs. Come message me, email me, join my email list, get the parent
Right?
guide.
Facebook group. Yep.
Yeah, and be
So
in the conversation with your young person. Like, be in that conversation. I work with kids that are adults living at home. Parents have hooked me up with their kids that finished university and came home, and they're still clarifying their lives. Okay, like we're the clarity mapping process is something they'll learn and can stay with them for life. It's very
yeah.
empowering to be in inquiry and be curious and all those things. So, but yeah, start the conversation, join the conversation, come on in. I welcome you. I can't wait to meet you. We're all
That's
in this
fabulous.
together. I'm a
We
partner
are.
in this, like I've got two of them that I'm trying to do all the right
Yeah,
things with my husband,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? That's it. We do need people who we can bounce things off of,
Hmm.
people who can help us think about parenting a little bit differently, which is part of the reason
Yes.
we do these mom to mom segments anyway.
Love
It's
it.
just here's another perspective. So, Lucy
Yes.
Colangelo,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much with
Thanks
your
for
Shine
having
On
me.
method. Everyone, please connect with Lucy, lucycolangelo.com. Lucy, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season.
You
Thank
too.
you all for joining us today. We will look forward to seeing you next time at the Juniper Center Thrive Live. Be well.